We're live!
Yes, we are. Your little magic fingers work.
It did. It's Perry.
And Remy.
And we're here representing the Trans Amherst Network
In
your face. Welcome, everybody. Tonight, we've got some great, good... I'm slowing down because I've been known to talk too fast. We've got some great... Oh, look what they're doing now. Oh, when people sign in, their actual pictures show up. We've got some great... Oh, there goes another one. Hi, Troy. Yoda, welcome. We've got some... You know what? Yoda spelled backwards is Adoy. We've got some great... We've got some great good news from the news today. And then we're also going to talk about why... What are we talking about? Why your beliefs matter, especially when it comes to relationships.
Hi, baby.
So we're going to be talking about a lot tonight.
Hello, Ren.
Might be a long show, might be a long short show. Ren. Hey, Ren, welcome.
Ren, Jonathan, and Troy
Yeah.
all checked in.
So interesting because, I met this woman today. That's a different story. 5 y'all here. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. So you've got a little bit too much space. Again, you're just dominating that picture. You're dominating it.
Who sets up the damn phone?
I do.
Exactly.
So let's talk the news real quick. There's no negative news today. Isn't that interesting that there's no negative news?
There's never negative.
There's what is up?
I don't know.
There's never
Take a deep breath.
negative news. Yes.
Who's
Pusa. My brother says that.
Woosah.
Woosah. Yeah, there's never negative news, but we want to help y'all out by showing you how to read the news. But this week or last week, we couldn't find any news worth sharing that was negative, so we're going to jump right into the positive news.
We did talk about the documentary, so I hope folks watched it. We'd love to
Throw another shout out for it while I pull up the stories.
Gender Revolution on Netflix with Katie Couric. And it's a great documentary. We threw it out there last week.
We
talked
did.
about it a little bit.
Indeed.
Encouraged folks to see it and
Yes,
come
sir.
back with their own opinions and whatnot.
Whoosah.
You whoosah?
Whoosah. So
I don't know.
So there you go. Go to Netflix and watch that show. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm sure it's good. So I've included the link to the first story.
Just fucked up sounding good news.
What?
Jonathan says, no, there's never bad news. There's just fucked up sounding good news.
Whatever, Jonathan. So, our first bit of good news tonight is for the first time in Ireland. Mm-hmm. An Ireland university is going to fly the transgender flag. Represent!
Yes.
Yes.
That's awesome. They were talking about, that's the one I didn't read. Not gonna lie.
You
I read all the
suck.
other articles. You suck. You talk about it. What did it say?
I didn't read it. I did read it, actually. Don't be getting all up in me. So so this article is talking about how this university is joining forces with the trans community, actually the LGBT community, and what they're doing is they're becoming the first university to fly the transgender flag this afternoon. This afternoon was today in Ireland, which means they're way ahead of us, so it's already a done deal. But the reason why this article is important is because, like I said, this is the first university in Ireland to do that. This is the first institution in Ireland to do so, to honor transgender Irish people.
Well, they're getting ready to release their newly written bylaws or whatever as it relates to gender identity and dealing with transgendered and non-binary individuals on staff and in students.
Yeah. And this university...
Some of it.
That's okay. This university joins a number of universities around the world. This university is called the University College Cork. They are joining a number of universities around the world that are transforming their policies in order to accommodate transgender people. And it's interesting because...
Which is amazing.
It is amazing.
They're trying to be inclusive.
Absolutely. And I believe, not to tout Oregon's horn, but I think Oregon is at least in the vanguard, if not out in front, of colleges and universities that are doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I would say so, too.
Yeah, I would almost say the whole state.
Go Portland!
Totally. So that's the first bit of news. Second bit of news that's happening
hey, Kendall,
around the world is actually out of Chile.
Chile.
Actually, the United States,
right,
but
that was Americans.
Right.
That was the Oscars last night. Did you watch it? Actually,
I did not watch.
You didn't actually see
did
her.
You?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did.
I did.
It was beautiful. Wasn't
it was beautiful. And so the movie that she's in,
Lay it.
Una Mujer Fantástica,
Nice.
The Fantastic Woman,
Mm-hmm.
which stars a trans woman playing a trans woman,
Daniela
Vega.
Daniela Vega.
And so the movie itself won an award for Best Foreign Language Film. Best Foreign Film.
That's true, actually.
Though she was not in the nominations for Best Actress.
Oh, that's interesting because Hollywood was thinking she was going to get a nomination, in addition to the film getting a nomination. You said the film won? Yes, it did.
The film won.
Okay.
Best Foreign Film, Best Foreign Language Film.
Interesting.
But you put up here, I don't know if you shared, have you shared both articles?
Yes.
El País has a much
deeper,
cleaner sort of...
what do you mean cleaner?
I don't know.
Less ads?
Less
BS?
opinionated?
Yes. Yeah. It's just a straighter, if I may use that word, LGBT community. I apologize, but it's a straighter approach to telling her story.
Yeah.
And partly, I think that's partly...
And more informative because they also had an interview directly with her. The other article's written in ways that's...
Yes.
More has, I don't know, there's a feel of an opinion behind
exactly.
So,
exactly.
Just my opinion.
And it turns out that Daniela in Chile is an icon.
Yes, she
as
is.
a result of her decisions to not only transition but to go into performance.
Yeah, she started out as a singer.
Yes, and she couldn't decide whether or not she wanted to pursue singing or acting as she transitioned, and then she decided to pursue...
She's the inspiration for the movie.
Was it actually? It's actually based on her life?
I don't know, but that's the way that what the article said is that she was the inspiration for the movie.
That's really interesting.
And I think the director last night said the same thing.
Huh.
Because when the movie won the award, they all were on stage, and she was standing behind him, and he acknowledged her. You know.
That's pretty awesome. And then the
and then she presented later.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to key in. Is her presentation was awesome, and she started with a little bit of ad-lib talking about, can we feel the love that naturally exists between all human beings. She didn't say that part. I'm adding that in. But it was an interesting speech that she gave.
It was beautiful
Wasn't it beautiful? Mm-hmm. It was beautiful. And so I'm, except for Monroe Bergdorf, don't be getting mad at me, audience. Except for Monroe Bergdorf, all the trans people who are celebrities, well, except for her and Caitlyn Jenner, all the trans people who are celebrities are saying some really positive and amazing things that's moving humanity forward. Mm-hmm. I'm really liking how the trans community vanguard, the people like Harry Neff and Laverne Cox and Alexandra Gray, who was on our show, and now Daniela Vega, they're saying things that are uniting humanity, even while humanity seems to be wanting to tear itself.
Well, that was kind of one thing about some of the speeches at the Oscars that I found was there was a lot of comment from a lot of people about we're still one people, and it was their own little political jabs, but they did them in my opinion, they did them in really nice ways. The way that they brought that, like they slid those opinions, and that's what they are.
That's what they
slid
are.
their opinions in there, made you feel good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They were they were positive, make you feel good kind of comments.
Absolutely, and that's Hollywood is kind of known for that. Their part of their purpose for telling stories is to tap into that human consciousness from which all positive things emerge. Even the stories like Dunkirk. Did Dunkirk win by any chance?
Dunkirk won several.
I figured.
Won quite a few.
That was a damn good movie.
I haven't seen it.
That's good. But even movies like Dunkirk, which is kind of glorifying war and the heroism that occurred in this one battle in World War II, is the war movies even are attempting to glorify the heroic aspects of humanity. And so Hollywood is in the business of storytelling, and often the stories they tell are positive stories. So it's not a surprise to me. It's uplifting actually that when the people who are in Hollywood get on stage, they often have messages that are about the oneness of humanity, because you know, to me, it seems like this group of people have it in abundance. The artistic community worldwide tends to be spiritually oriented people, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Except for people like Harvey Weinstein, who we won't talk about. Okay, let's move on. The last bit of positive news that I wanted to share is this study that was published in The Independent out of the UK. And I want to have a little...
if there's any comments before you move on.
Sure, let's do it. Thank you.
Let's see. Ren says, I want to see it. It never played here in Philly. I'm assuming you're referring to Una Mujer Muy Fantástica. I haven't seen it myself, but I plan on seeing it as soon as I can.
You'll probably have to go to an art shop, an art house to see that movie. I doubt it's going to come to the Regal theaters, for example.
Well, no. I'm sure there's an independent, you know, it's going to be in the independent films or whatever.
Yeah.
But here in Portland, it's got to be somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be at the Fox or the Regal or the Living Room Theater, the one that you and Jonathan went to, I think.
Mm-hmm. It probably was there.
Oh, you're right.
You know what I mean? If it's won an award, it's out of the theaters by now. Right. But that doesn't mean
come back.
It won't come back in one of our smaller theaters.
Yep.
Love Portland.
Yep, me too.
So... Plus the internet, there's a way to find it. It's going to be somewhere.
I'm sure all of the streaming services will have it on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I
plan to see it.
Oh, sure. Okay. So,
you ain't in a rush? You ain't got nowhere to go?
I ain't got nowhere to go. I don't know why
you're trying to rush me? I know. Look.
I've been in a mood since the show began. Actually,
before.
So the next issue, the next article we just published in the comment section, this is a really interesting article because I would love to have a discussion amongst y'all about why this is the case, because I don't think it's what the people are. I think it's partly what the people are saying here. So the story is that this study was done.
This is a British.
No, isn't John Hopkins? This is in the United States, isn't it?
Is this a John Hopkins?
Yeah, major study conducted by the John Hopkins University.
But this article is written by the British.
Correct. It was correct.
So, okay.
So yes. So the study is saying that gender reassignment surgeries are on the rise, or gender confirmation surgeries, for those of you who have thin skins, is on the rise in the U.S. according to this study. And what they did was between 2000 and 2014, they did this is really interesting. They did an assessment of 1,000 hospitals around the U.S., which makes up about 95% of the population. I didn't realize that 95% of the population is tended to by only 1,000 hospitals.
It's probably 1,000 major chain, like, I mean, you've got your Kaiser, your Providence.
Right. You're right.
There's got to be more than 1,000 hospitals
I would think
America,
so too, yeah.
But what they're umbrellaed under, probably...
like Legacy, for example, which has probably
Providence,
6 hospitals in Portland. Got it. Okay. So basically, what this article... Sorry for on that tangent a little bit. What this article said, or what the survey, the research showed, was that a very large percentage of people are beginning to receive this surgery, and it used to be relatively small. So between 2000 and 2005, it was 72% of the women. That's not.
But they don't give you any reasons why. The possible reasons why are quite vast. I mean, there's more hospitals offering the surgery.
This is the conversation.
There's more states, that are covering the surgery.
Yep.
There's more people who are being open and coming out about their gender identities and whatever, and wanting surgeries.
There's more insurance systems covering the surgery.
Right.
In fact, they actually said that toward the end of the article. So between 2000 and 2005, 72% of the patients who had gender reassignment surgeries in the U.S. decided to undergo the genital surgery. And then from 2006 to 2011, the percentage of those people who underwent the genital surgery rose from 72% to 83%, almost 84%. So there is a statistically valid increase in the number of people receiving that surgery. And at the bottom of it, they say
says out of the 4,118 people who underwent genital surgery, 56.3% did not have any health insurance. These people paid for it out of their own pockets.
And then it says, for those who did have health insurance cover in the form of Medicare or Medicaid, 70% chose to have this surgery in 2014. So it's interesting.
I don't know. That seems...
What? It seems what?
Nothing.
It seems logical to me because it's like if the government's willing to cover it, more people are going to get the surgery.
I just wonder, are more people genuinely wanting the surgery, or more people feeling pushed?
This is the question.
Peer pressured.
This is what I wanted to talk about, y'all.
That's where my question, actually, when I was reading this, I was like, these numbers seem high, but as we know, there's a lot of trans people that aren't seeking that surgery. There are a lot that don't. There are a lot that do. So maybe our numbers are changing. I don't know.
I wish that Shannon were here because long ago Shannon told us that the majority of trans women don't opt to get the surgery. And so now we're seeing these numbers going up. And I feel the same way Remy does. Is this actually because trans people are being encouraged by the technology and the insurance availability and other things to go after this surgery even though they may not want it? Like, are they falling into the belief that in order for you to be a woman you have to have a vagina? Or do these people really want to go that far? Mm-hmm. Or is there some other reason? I would love to dive into it and find out what the reasoning is, because something is going on here.
Absolutely.
There's an interesting conversation that was going on Instagram 2 weeks ago about this surgery and what these trans women were saying. This is going to get a little bit graphic, guys, so bear with me. What these trans people were saying is the penis and the clitoris are identical appendages. It's just that one is larger and the other smaller. Obviously, the male.
Wasn't that in that Katie Couric documentary?
I haven't seen the documentary.
Oh, I think they actually...
Well, let me talk about it, and you tell me if it's true or not.
I think they did. It's been 2 weeks since I watched the movie.
Got it.
But I think that was a point brought up by one of the doctors at one point in that documentary.
Interesting.
I think. Go ahead.
So that's okay. In the conversation, these trans women looked at the anatomy of the penis and the vagina, and what they discovered is that the penis... So as the penis sticks out of the male body like this, and then inside the body, it actually splits into two, and it wraps around the prostate and then comes to an end behind it. And this is one of the reasons why when males are stimulated in the anus, they get sensual pleasure from it. Interestingly enough, when these trans women looked at the clitoris looks like this outside of the female body, but then inside the female body, it looks just like the penis. It splits in two, wraps around the vagina, and then terminates behind the anus.
Well, we all start out in the womb as female,
yes,
or with female genitalia,
yes,
which includes a small phallic
appendage.
Yep. Which then, with the introduction or not introduction of testosterone, right, the phallic part will grow, the labia, it fuses together, and then the labia become testes.
Yes.
And the gonads descend from the body,
yes,
as opposed to retreat into the body.
Yes.
So, we all have... And then that's why you get the intersex individual with ambiguous genitalia, correct, because it does something different in between.
Right. Well, what these trans women were saying was, do not go after genital confirmation surgery, because the surgery...
We got you, Kristen.
the surgery does not create what the trans women call a pussy. It creates a vagina that they liken to a hole, H-O-L-E. Because when the doctors... Now, this isn't me saying, this is the trans women saying this. What the doctors are doing is they're not trying to give... So let me distinguish a pussy from a vagina according to these trans women. According to these trans women, a pussy is an organ that is used in the process of pleasurable intercourse. And a vagina is the physical appearance of a hole in the body. This is their interpretation. So when a doctor performs this genital surgery, what these trans women are saying is that the technology is so crude, you cannot achieve the result of a pussy. All you get is a hole. And in some cases, women trans women who get this surgery are able to orgasm, but only through the stimulation of the clitoris. Whereas these trans women claim that when women who have pussies, in other words, fully functional vaginas, when they have orgasm, their orgasm is being stimulated not just by the clitoris, but by the entire organ that we call the penis in the man and the clitoris in the woman. In other words, it's the parts of that organ that are inside the body that's stimulated by the friction and the rubbing that occurs when the penis is inside the vagina.
Mm-hmm.
And they're claiming that when you take a male organ and turn it into a vagina, you destroy the internal structure that allows ordinary women to experience the full-on vaginal experience of a climax, of an orgasm. So they're basically what they're...
Well, you are surgically altering your genitalia. I mean, the possibilities. These are the things that you go into when you sign up for surgery. These are the kinds of things that you sign away.
Yeah.
You sign waivers.
You sign waivers.
You potentially, it may not come out the way you anticipate or think. You're potentially killing nerves in certain areas or cutting through nerves in certain areas. Mm-hmm. And the technology today is much better than it has been.
Well, it's interesting because it is much better than it has been, but these trans women are saying it's still not good enough. In fact, they showed a picture on Instagram of this one woman who got this surgery, and I've seen a lot of vaginas, but this did not look like a vagina, and she was missing a clitoris. And the woman, one of the trans women that was doing this series of stories on Instagram knows the person who got this surgery, and she asked the patient, "Where's your clitoris?" And the trans woman replied back, "What's a clitoris?" She didn't even know what the anatomy was she was supposed to end up with from this surgery. And there was another story where these trans women had asked a trans woman who had received
Sounds like you didn't do your homework.
Right. There's another woman they talked to who got this surgery, and the woman was unhappy with the performance of her new vagina. And when she went back in terms of sexual pleasure, and when she went back to the doctor said, "That's not what you got. That's not what you asked for. You asked for a vagina." And so the point of these trans women is that they are these other trans women who are rushing off to get this surgery.
Well, here's my question.
Don't know what they're getting into.
Here's a question I have to those trans women who are saying it doesn't work the way a pussy does. Mm-hmm. You've never had a pussy. How do you know?
That's a really good point.
That what you're experiencing isn't what they would experience.
That's a really good point.
What someone born with a vagina would experience. Like, how do you know that? How could you make that claim one way or the other?
It's a really good question, because I know some...
I mean, you could speculate.
Right.
You can compare it to anal intercourse, right? But it's not the same thing.
It's not the same.
So how could you make that comparison?
I don't know. I mean, I know some trans women who have, not personally, who have received this surgery and claim that the sex is wonderful.
I've never heard anything negative from anyone I've known.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. So it's just really interesting.
I think it also probably depends on what doctor you see and what procedure they actually give you and how good they are.
Yeah.
And was it, $20 in a garage in some third world country? I mean, let's be honest.
$20 at the Jiffy Lube. I'm going to fix your vagina.
People do all sorts of crazy things.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the other thing that these two trans women were saying, is that some of these, and in fact, the leading doctor in the United States who happens to be a trans woman, the leading surgeon that performs these surgeries, said herself that a lot of the doctors getting into this line of surgical procedures are getting in for the money, and they don't really know what they're doing. Mm-hmm.
So I think she was the same one who was also on that. You need to watch that documentary.
I'm going to have to. I bet it is.
You getting mad at me for not reading articles, which I did read.
This wasn't... watching that show is not preparation for this show. But
Absolutely.
I will watch it.
We're talking about it right now.
I will watch it.
To benefit the whole community. You know what? I'm done with you.
Okay. So the point is, we've got this article coming out that's talking about how more and more trans women are going after this surgery. And actually, they didn't distinguish between male confirmation surgery and female confirmation surgery. It just says genital.
True.
Right? Right. So it could be both.
It's very possible that it's both. It's more, I believe through that documentary, She said that there's more male to female surgeries per year because female to male is much more complex. But those numbers are on the rise.
Wow.
The number of female to male surgeries is starting to rise.
Wow. Shall we take some comments?
Sure.
See how good I am? I'm slowing down to take your comments, ladies and gentlemen. I got to stop looking at the screen and look at the camera.
Christian was going to get on us about the clitoris is a lot bigger than it looks. It hangs out on the inside. And then we got to that. We got to that okay. before we even saw her comment. She's hee. This is heartbreaking. Great point. I think that was to me about how can you make that comparison? I don't know.
It's a really good point.
It's you know.
Jonathan's contending that the numbers are incorrect. Possibly. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know. We will see as it comes out in the wash, right? As more people get these surgeries, we're going to be hearing more about their after effects or their results or what have you, and whether or not people on the whole are happy with what they get. But I know for a fact that there are doctors out there who are doing this procedure who are not qualified to do the procedure. They're just doing it to get the money, just like what was happening in abortions in the early days. Where people, like you said, where they were performing them in alleys and all that kind of thing with all kinds of weird implementation. So please, trans women, when you're out there, if you're going to follow Remy's advice, if you're going to go out and get this surgery, do your freaking homework.
Right, seriously. Get a medical record, like, you know, what are the medical?
What's it called? What is that?
Surgical book. I don't know, but do your information, do your research.
An anatomy book.
An anatomy book. That's first of all, find out what the anatomy is that you're talking about here.
So you're educated when you talk to the doctor.
Actually, yes, and then talk to actual doctors. Even if you're not going to use that doctor, try to get a consultation with the best possible doctor you can find. You know what I mean? And these days, it's so much easier.
Yes.
There are more doctors that are getting into this line of work. I think there was another article or something else that another state just joined.
Oh, was it Nevada?
Nevada joined covering the surgery, covering transgendered services over the state healthcare. So that's 5 states in America. Already, that's just 5 already. And we're one of them.
So Remy's making a really good point. Now that more states are beginning to pay for this procedure, please don't rush to get the procedure done. The wait lists are long, but there's in some indirect way, there's a purpose to that wait. You know, take your time, and I know that you're probably desperately wanting the surgery. But that doesn't mean you should rush into it without any education.
Absolutely.
As with any engagement with a doctor, you should strive to get as much information so that when you're sitting across the table from him or her, you can have an intelligent conversation about the procedure you're about to receive and the ramifications. And like Remy said, the risks. So,
there's risks to every surgery.
Oh, there's risks. And these are really complicated surgeries. And you don't want to come out of there with less than what you wanted. It's one thing to have a gap that looks like a vagina. It's another thing to have a pussy. And so you really want to get as close, I think you really want to get as close to the latter as you can.
I would think so.
I would think so. All right, shall we move on?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to start this next section of the show. Oh, wait a second, we got a comment. I hope trans women don't feel like they need to get the surgery to feel more like a woman. They don't really need to feel like a woman, in my humble opinion. Yeah, can we go on this line for a minute?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is something that's near and dear to my heart. And for the trans women who are watching this show, bear with me a moment, okay? Because I'm going to go in a direction that may piss you off. Because there's this stereotype that the only men that are interested in trans women are men who are interested in trans women who have a penis. And that's not entirely true. In fact, we've spoken with a number of them on our show who don't care what's between their legs, and some of them who would prefer that they have the surgery. So, that being said, there is, as you know, trans women, there's a war going on, if I may use that term. It's a gender war. And the ground over which this war is occurring is the gender binary norm. And part of the indoctrination trope, part of the stories behind this gender binary norm is that in order for you to be a woman, you have to have certain things, physical things. And in order for men to be men, they have to behave in certain ways. They have to be certain masculine ways.
It's interesting. I just point out right there.
Go ahead. I was going
to point out.
I know.
To be a woman, you have to have physical traits.
Yes.
Like physical characteristics, physical body characteristics. To be a man, by what you just said, it's all about how you act.
Yes. I know. I was thinking of that as I was saying it. It's interesting. And so listen, ladies, please listen. I know I'm a guy and maybe I'm mansplaining, but I'm not trying to mansplain here. Just because society has trained us all to believe a certain way about what a woman looks like or what a woman is, doesn't mean you have to buy into that set of stories.
Amen.
You don't have to. And I'm a really good example of the male side of that stereotype. I mean, my wife calls me gay all the time. And so men, and you know, it's interesting that I want to go back to the point you just made. As unfair as this may be, I think when a person sees a trans man, in most cases, they're not thinking what's between that person's legs because they look so much like a man. Mm-hmm. What they're looking, and they're not even thinking of it consciously, but I think what they're paying attention to is how the person is behaving. And in most cases, that I've experienced anyway, trans men pass in that way. Right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing.
Okay. So now when the same person looks at a trans woman, what are they looking at?
They're thinking physical characteristics usually.
That's exactly right, Remy. And so as unfair as it may seem, I think it's an accurate statement to say that. And so this is where the pressure comes from. This goes back to what you were asking before. Are trans women getting this surgery because they're feeling
peer pressure
to get it?
Societally peer pressure.
Not just society, but from other trans women
too.
Yes.
Absolutely, in some cases.
Yes.
You know, some trans women have bought into that story, like, you know, as Shannon would have said, they've drunk the Kool-Aid.
Yes.
And they've bought into that story.
Yes.
And so they're gonna tell you that you aren't a woman either until you get the surgery or whatever. You know?
Now pay attention, ladies. This is a trans woman right here saying this. And so, go ahead.
I want to say it again.
Please.
If the surgery is your direction, or you feel that that's your direction, please take your time. It's not a rush. It's not a rush. And you would rather know for sure and get it done the right way one time.
Don't you only have one time?
One time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can go in for corrective situations, but it's irreversible,
right.
First of all.
Oh, that's true.
It's an irreversible surgery.
Yeah.
And there are people who get the surgery and then regret having the surgery and wish that they could go back, and you cannot.
It's a one-way street, ladies.
You know, or again, you can get a botched job where, you know, you would have to go back for more, or live with botched genitalia. So there's a lot of things to consider with this, you know, and I just want you to go in it educated and knowing that that's right for you. And what's right for you isn't what's right for anybody else. Only you can determine what's right for you. Only you can determine what your needs and what your wants are. Don't let anyone else peer pressure you. Don't let society, don't let your friends, don't let your family. If you don't feel like you need the surgery, then don't get it. If there's other surgeries you would like to get, you know, go for those. Maybe you want facial feminization surgery. That'll make you feel woman enough. Breast implants, whatever, some hormones, you know, we're all different, and that's okay, and we can express that how we want to, and that's the whole thing. That's our power.
Remy, how does a trans woman tell the difference between whether she authentically believes she wants the surgery, and between that and perhaps being pressured by either her peers or society in general?
I think it's going to be how you feel about it. When you think about that question, is this surgery right for me? You know, do I want to change my genitalia? Right? I think the connection between you and your genitalia is a huge part of that.
Wow.
Right? Because some trans women are absolutely appalled by that, you know, and they want nothing to do with their lower extremities until they get the surgery, period.
Right.
And okay, then that's probably your direction, you know, but maybe some people have better relationships with their genitalia as it stands.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. Awesome. And that doesn't make you any less of a woman.
Awesome.
Just because you have a very large clitoris.
That's exactly right.
That's all it is.
Yeah. Let's get some comments. So Ren follows up his initial one with, I hope it didn't sound like I was against it. I'm just saying it doesn't matter to me.
And that's awesome.
It's totally awesome.
And you hear that, ladies?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There are men that it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter.
Yep. Yep.
One way or the other. And some will prefer you one way and some will prefer you the other way. And it's all about, do your stories match?
Yep. And then Jonathan says the dichotomy that he perceived in our conversation about the gender differences is because men are more visual. But I would say that women have that same perspective.
I think in that instant, in that circumstance, it's whoever the beholder is.
Yeah.
Whoever the beholder is, if you see someone portraying masculine traits, especially if they're physically have masculine traits like facial hair and a deeper voice, there's no question
isn't it
there's just no question
Isn't it interesting? There isn't.
Right? But if there's a trans woman, if there's any question, that already changes it. If it's obvious to you, then there's a whole nother situation.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And then the next comment was from Tamar. Tamar says, I'd hazard a guess most of us ladies have already considered this long and hard.
Yes.
Tamar.
And I'm sure we have, and many will continue to, you know? And even when you've made your decision, at least in my experience, when you've made your decision, it crosses your mind, and you still check in with yourself. Is this still the right place for me? Am I still going in the right direction?
Yeah.
Have things changed for me, you know? Because maybe you weren't considering any surgeries in the beginning, and maybe now you're considering a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot can change, you know?
Yep. And then Jonathan says, again, maybe some self-pressure as well. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. There's self-pressure, peer pressure, societal pressure. I absolutely believe that.
Gender dysphoria pressure, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are one that experiences gender dysphoria.
I would like to, at some point, I'm speaking to you, I would like at some point to do a show about gender dysphoria as it relates to what we talk about stories and beliefs and things like that. It would be a very sensitive issue to talk about, but it would be worth talking about.
It might be hard for some people to listen to if they're experiencing it, but if you can come into that conversation with an open mind, I think it could really
be powerful
and very beneficial to getting away from that.
I totally agree, Remy. Totally agree. Okay, and then Kristen says, regarding the look of a trans man and the behavior, absolutely. Trans men pass more easily, maybe because T can be overwhelming to the body, and women of all kinds have a ton of expectations heaped all over them. Yes. Bad enough for us cis women. How much harder for trans women? I'm so glad I'm hearing this tonight. I've been wondering about this for a long time. Wow. High five on that. Thanks, Kristen. Okay. Oh, sorry. Did you want to?
Well, yeah. Actually, I wanted to comment that,
Go for it.
And I think it was one of the articles that we posted on the conversations that we were talking about, and I think it was about Daniela Vega and the strength. I believe it was the writer, director, or producer of the movie who was talking about her strength and the strength of trans women and how amazing it is and how, how powerful she is. He's like, she's in one sense, she's this powerful modern actress or modern actor, and then on the other hand, she's this classic diva from 1930s class. It's just, and I thought that the description was just beautiful because it's how I see us. We are these beautiful combinations of wonderful things that just can't be made anywhere else. We are special. We are different. And on that Katie Couric documentary too, it shows that the trans brain pattern is different. It's close to a woman's, but it's different.
See,
it's its own thing.
This is what I've been saying all along, and one of the reasons why I created the Transamorous Network. And I know some of the men who are watching this show will not agree with me, but in my opinion, people like William Lloyd and his wife, What's the black couple's name? Tier and Samaya. They are epitomes, in my opinion, of what Remy has just talked about, this director talking about, is that there is something about a trans woman, no offense to cis women, there's something about a trans woman that makes her different. And it's so
that
attractive.
Trans girl magic.
It's so attractive. It's kind of what you're saying, that there's this, what this director is saying, there's this blend that is unique to trans women.
Well, society, and we've talked about this before, societies through history have seen the transgendered or third gendered or other gendered individuals as something special.
Yes.
As something spiritual, as bridges between the spirit world and here, you know, because they are able to cross those lines and those boundaries.
Yes.
Just being who they are.
Yes. Yep. That was beautiful. Okay, so Jonathan says, it's your intellect and spirit that drives me every day, Mama. Oh, I think that was supposed to... Maybe I should... It doesn't matter. I read it out loud. Sorry, Jonathan. Probably meant just for her, but...
It's in the group
It's
comment.
public, yeah. Okay. So it's true,
he's
though.
Going into back that comment up.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And that's what, in my opinion, when a trans-attracted man or trans-amorous man owns their shit and then gets together with a trans woman, his life is usually, in my experience, never the same again. And it's because of you all.
Damn right.
Okay, so let's move on to the main event of tonight's show. You know, guys, we believe, of course, that your beliefs matter. And specifically your beliefs, what?
I had forgotten for a moment what the main...
What it was about.
I
did too.
I was like,
That's why I screwed up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's something else to talk about.
Yeah, your beliefs matter, especially your beliefs about relationships. And I want to start this section off with a story that just happened this evening before we started this show. I was at Starbucks, and I didn't recognize...
Here, Tamar.
What Tamar say?
Own your shit, fellas. It'll change your life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's seriously. So I was at Starbucks, and there was this... I thought this person was a cis woman down the table from me. Turns out this person was a trans woman. And I was having a conversation with the two guys in front of me, and behind the two guys in front of me was a group of 4 police officers. This trans woman over here got up and walked over to the police officers and started giving them a hard time about being police officers, and she was getting really, really upset. And then she started talking about her best friend who was gunned down by police officers. It wasn't these police officers that did it. In fact, they were saying that wasn't us. And they were trying to soothe her emotional upset, and she was getting upset. In fact, after a while, all of Starbucks was looking at her. And so...
all eyes on me.
Exactly. And so finally, the sergeant or whoever he was said to the others, let's go. So they started to go. They went up to get something else at the counter. So the counter was behind me, and they were in front of me, behind the two guys I was talking to. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys misgendered the trans woman. And she made a beeline from where she was past me. I thought she was going to knock my computer over.
Lit him up.
Oh my God. She said, if you misgender me one more time, you're in trouble. And I couldn't believe she did that to 4 guys who have guns. So then they tried to get out quietly, and she followed them out the whole way, berating them the whole way. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because that poor woman was being run by her stories. She was out of control. And in the same way, guys, you are out of control when you don't realize that your beliefs are creating your reality, especially around relationships. So, why are you laughing?
True.
It's true.
And I can see it all in my head.
So like in the Man's Guide, we offer these workshops to allow you to uncover what we already know. But if you're having trouble just finding trans women in your area, it's not because there are no trans women in your area. It's because you have beliefs that make it hard to find trans women in your area. And part of your beliefs reinforce behavior that reinforce the beliefs. So for example, if you believe that there are no trans women in your area and you go out looking for a trans woman under that belief, your action going out trying to find a trans woman you think is not there is
she will be invisible to you even if she's standing in your face.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Told, you will not see her.
You will literally not see her. And so conversely though, if you're able to soothe that story and create momentum behind a new story that goes something like, trans women are everywhere, and my inner being is allowing me to naturally rendezvous with the one of my dreams, you will, without having to try, have a rendezvous with a trans woman. Now, at the moment you meet that person for the first time, that person may not be your ideal trans woman, but that's because you're not your ideal version of you. You probably have some other stories about yourself that are preventing you from meeting your ideal trans woman. So if you believe that you are hot stuff enough, scratch that. If you have a desire to want to be with someone like Laverne Cox or Harry Neff or Isis, what's her name? Isis?
I don't know.
Okay, Isis, whoever, I can't remember her last name. But you don't believe that you are on par to meet someone like that? Like, if you have a gut and you feel self-conscious about your gut, or if you're short and you're self-conscious about that, or you don't like the shape of your face, or some other thing that you're superficially attached to and demeaning yourself about, there's no way that the universe is going to match you up with someone like Laverne Cox, who's super confident, sexy, and has it all going on. So instead of meeting Laverne Cox, although you might have that image of the ideal trans woman that you want to meet, you might meet someone who shares your story. So it's possible that you would meet a woman who is not passable. It's possible that you would meet a woman who's angry.
That's okay, though.
It is okay. Why is it okay?
Because trans women are everywhere. And that's the story that's being built.
That's correct.
Not that trans women are nowhere and they don't exist in my world, right?
Or only the ugly ones exist in my world. No, that's not accurate. There are beautiful women there too. But on your way to finding the woman that matches your ideal, you're going to meet trans women. First of all, that's the first step. And then secondly, you're going to meet trans women who match the stories you currently have.
At that moment.
At that moment.
At that moment. Key point.
So if you're insecure, you're going to meet trans women who are insecure. If you're angry with yourself, you're going to meet trans women who are angry. If you're shameful about your trans attraction, you're going to meet trans women who have dysphoria. It's just a natural matching up of stories. And so this is why your stories matter, not only about yourself and trans women, but about relationships. So if you believe that trans women are only after your wallet, or they're only exploring their new sexual ideas, or some other thing other than wanting to have a long-term relationship, those are the kind of trans women you're going to meet.
Right.
So your stories about relationships, your beliefs, and stories about yourself are really, really important. And in every case, the stories are more important than any action you take. So if you listen to the interviews we've done with couples on our show, every single one of them the couples met each other after they took care of their disempowering stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
And
they were in a place to meet the person that matched their stories, the person that fulfilled the needs of the time, of the life, of the partnership that they were truly looking for.
That's right.
And in almost all of their cases, if I'm not mistaken, they became in deep relationships rather quickly.
That once they changed the stories.
Once they changed their stories they met this person, that was it.
Yep.
And in some cases, they've been together 6, 7, 8, 10 years.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Like, I'm talking months they were together. You know, what was Tier and Samaya? They were together, like, weeks before they moved in.
Yeah,
and then, within another 6 months, they got married, and they've been together, like,
7 years
or something like that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So this is how it happens, you guys. And I cannot emphasize enough how changing your stories can not only make what you think is impossible right now possible, but like Remy said, it can happen very quickly. And even if it takes, let's just say it takes 10 years, those 10 years, you're soothing stories that are keeping you from meeting her. So in a way, you're preparing yourself to meet the person that you think is your ideal partner. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, if it takes 10 years, in year 10 when it happens, you will look back. I promise. You'll look back and you'll go, wow, those 10 years passed fast.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It'll seem like it happened tomorrow.
And the person that you have become by that point is such an amazing person. You are now ready to meet the person that is your ideal. You now match their story.
That's exactly right.
How about that? You match their story now.
Well, in
some cases, that's exactly what it is you've got to get, maybe that person is already there.
That's right.
They're at that level, and you will meet them, but you've got to get the work done.
That's right.
You can't have... you can't have the best and not be the best.
Boom. That's exactly right.
You got to be the best at whatever it is.
So you have two options.
I don't know.
You're right. You're right. So you have two options, guys. You can either change your stories and rise to the occasion and meet that ideal trans woman you're wanting, or you can lower your expectations and settle for the trans women who you're meeting that are matching your current stories. In either way, either option, you can be happy. You just have to choose. My guess is that for all the men who are watching these shows, your dissatisfaction comes from not satisfying your ideal. And every man can satisfy their ideal in all terms, but we're talking specifically in relationship. But in order for you to, if you have an ideal, like a lofty ideal for a partner, like Remy said, you have to become lofty yourself. And you can't do that if you're not attending to the stories you're telling about yourself, about the trans partner you want to be with, or the relationship, or all three of those. Let's take some comments.
100,
100, right? Right? Okay, so, yep, Tamar says, own your shit, fellas, it'll change your life. Jonathan says, it's okay, Perry, you read it, best not to cry, though, or I am crying. I'm going to love that comment.
Going back to what Tamar said, owning your shit, and that means living your truth and changing your stories.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got to... But changing your stories gets you to the place where you start living your truth.
Yep.
You can't start living your truth without the stories being corrected.
That's correct. Because your stories drive your behavior, whether your behavior is overt or not. So if you're shameful, which is the story you're telling that creates the feeling of shame is underneath the feeling of shame. So if you're shameful, though, you're not going to be out in public meeting the trans women that you want who are hanging out in public. You're going to be hanging out in those nether worlds, owning your shame and meeting women who are on the lowdown or down low.
Hanging in shady places.
Meeting shadier people. Yeah.
And it's what it is.
It's
exactly what it is. So when you get your story right, you don't have to even go to those shady places. All you have to do is go to your Starbucks or your grocery store or the gas station or go to work and interview somebody on the internet. Whatever.
Your life becomes your dating site. Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Okay, should we close out?
Unless we have any other comments.
Let's see. Tamara says, yes. That's the last comment. So that's it. Thanks, guys, for sticking it out. Really great. I thought it was a really great show. We talked a lot about some serious stuff.
I always think we do a good show.
I wonder, should we, so we've got a lineup all the way through June. Should we let us know. You five folks that are watching the show, should we take a break from our lineup, which is speaking specifically to men, and do a show specifically about gender dysphoria? I think we should do a podcast about it and a YouTube show, just you and I. We'll talk about it.
It's the kind of conversation that might be nice to hear other comments.
Feedback. I agree. Okay, Ren, thanks for your comments. It was a great show. We loved it. Yes, great show. Yes. Thank you very much. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week on another show where we will be talking about men. You got to explore your beliefs about love. So we're going to be talking specifically about your stories about love.
Boom.
Bye, you guys.
Ciao.